For Columbus High School. Thank you for having us. It's great to be with you for today's really important announcement and bill signing and news, although it's going to be hard to compete with the fact that the U is in the Final Four. And Florida Atlantic is in the Final Four, so in less than 100-mile terrain, we've got two of the four teams, so I think it'll be really exciting to watch that next week. And, you know, we've got a shot to have two Florida teams playing for the national championship. Can you believe that? I don't think a lot of people would have predicted that at the beginning of the tournament. So we're excited for that, but we're really excited to be here. The state of Florida is #1 when it comes to education freedom and education choice. And today's bill signing cements us in that #1 position, because we will be signing legislation which will represent the largest expansion of education choice, not only in the history of this state, but in the history of these United States. That is a big deal. And I can just tell you the tale of the tape, because I think the results speak for themselves. Florida is ranked #1 for parental power, according to the Center for Education Reform. We are ranked #1 for education freedom, according to the Heritage Foundation. We are #1 for state spending on private school choice. And we're #1 for tax credit scholarship enrollments, ESA enrollments, and in other types of voucher enrollments. If you just look at the private scholarships that students in Florida have been able to utilize, and these are mostly low-income families, also middle-income families, we represent 1/3 of the entire number of scholarship recipients in our entire country. Well, what's happened is, over the years, as Florida has embraced parental choice, education freedom, you've seen other entities respond. We now have over 360,000 students in charter schools, and our school districts, particularly here in Miami-Dade County, have embraced choice within the school districts. So if you look at all the students in the state of Florida that are utilizing some type of choice program, private scholarship, charter, intra-district choice, it totals 1.3 million students across our state are utilizing some type of choice program. That empowers parents. That's providing a parent with options to be able to find the best school for the child. And if you look at our full-time choice community of 1.3 million, that is a number larger than the entire K-12 enrollments of 35 other states. So this is a huge thing in the state of Florida, and we're happy today that we're able to do even more to make people's dreams become a reality. Since I became governor in 2019, we launched the Family Empowerment Scholarship. Remember, those private scholarships have been capped out because they were tied to corporate contributions under the Florida Tax Credit Scholarship Program, which helped a lot of people but was not able to expand. So our Family Empowerment Scholarship really expanded the upper limits of that, and we've been expanding it every year since. We've even done things like provide parents $750 scholarships for transportation to a school other than their local neighborhood school. And we even expanded resources for struggling readers in elementary school through last year's New Worlds Reading Initiative. So we've been able to do the scholarship, but also provide other support that bolsters choice. And in the bill we're signing today, all that kind of comes full circle, because parents are going to be able to have the ability to get money for their student, for their child, and they can do tuition. They're also going to be able to use it for things like tutoring and for other things that can be very important in a child's development and well-being. So today, our bill that we're signing, House Bill 1, it expands school choice to every single student in the state of Florida. And it does that by eliminating the current financial eligibility restrictions and allowing any student who's a resident of Florida and is eligible to enroll in K-12 to participate in school choice scholarships. Now, there'll be a preference for low and middle income families, but at the end of the day, we fundamentally believe that the money should follow the student, and it should be directed based on what the parent thinks is the most appropriate education program for their child. The bill also supports school choice by eliminating the current enrollment cap and the exemptions to the maximum number of students who could participate in the Family Empowerment Scholarship for educational opportunities. We are also in this bill increasing the number of scholarships for students with unique abilities, and we're also eliminating the requirement that at least one of 24 credits needed to graduate will be complete through online learning. At the end of the day, learning in person is great, and we should not force any credits to be online, although you do have the option to do that. We're also requiring the Office of K-12 School Choice to develop an online portal that enables parents to choose the best educational options for their student. And that's not just in this bill limited to choice. We're actually doing more things, and in particular, we're expanding opportunities for teachers by eliminating barriers and red tape in the profession, including by waiving the general knowledge requirement for teachers that have been in the classroom for 3 years of supports and have been rated effective for the last 3 years, expanding the length of a temporary teaching certificate from 3 years to 5 years, and requiring the State Board of Education, with input from relevant stakeholders, to recommend additional repeals and revisions to the Education Code to reduce regulation on public schools. As these things grow, they metastasize over the years. You have a lot of different red tape that gets built up, so they're going to be doing a comprehensive rewrite of that and hopefully be able to eliminate a lot of the redundancies and a lot of the red tape that impacts school districts all across the state. So this bill is a major game changer. I think that we are yet again leading the country when it comes to things like education choice. But why are we doing it? I mean, this is not just about philosophy, although it is certainly involves that. You know, it's really about results. If you look at the most recent National Assessment of Education Progress results, the nation's report card, only thing that all 50 states take, Florida, in this first post-COVID assessment, rated 3rd and 4th in the country for 4th grade reading and 4th grade math. Now, that was not true 25 years ago. That was not true even 10 years ago. And so people have said, wait a minute, if you give parents a choice, if you let parents take scholarship and go to the school of their choice, somehow that's going to hurt education performance. And in Florida, we're proof positive that that's just the opposite of what actually happened. Fact of the matter is, our school districts perform better because they've embraced choice. Our charter schools perform better because they have to compete for individual students. They're not entitled to get anybody as a charter school. And of course, having private schools that can service the needs of parents, so that a parent will take that scholarship and say, you know what, I want to go to this particular school because of what they're offering. All that has created a very positive feedback. And if you look at the NAEP results that came in, I think the states that ahead of us were much different states in terms of their diversity and in terms of their size. If you controlled for demographic differences, we would be #1 in the country, just like we were 2019. I mean, you look at Miami-Dade, we got a lot of different languages. There's a lot of things going on. Some of these other states, they don't have to deal with any of that. And so for us to be as big as we are, as diverse as we are, and not just in terms of being in like one area, you know, the Panhandle is a lot different than Palm Beach, and Naples is a lot different than Jacksonville, and yet we've been able to do it in a way that's producing good student outcomes. So I'm excited to be able to be here to put the John Hancock on this important piece of legislation. But I'm only going to do that in a few minutes because we're going to hear from a lot of folks who've had an awful lot to do with what we're doing here. So we're going to hear from a number of people. We're going to hear from leaders of both houses of the legislature, Paul Renner and Kathleen Passidomo. You're going to hear from our Education Commissioner, Manny Diaz, who's from down here in South Florida. We're going to hear from one former scholarship student, 2 mothers, and then we're going to hear from the legislative sponsors in each chamber, Corey Simon in the Senate and Kaylee Tuck in the House. And so without further ado, I'd like to welcome up Speaker Paul Renner.
Well, thank you, Governor. And with the Governor's support and signature today, Florida delivers the largest expansion of educational freedom in our nation's history, and that's something we should all be proud about. You know, the Governor mentioned how well our public schools are doing, but it's no coincidence that 25 years ago, our public schools were at the bottom in terms of our scores, and that's when we began the process of making meaningful steps towards school choice. You know, the old way of thinking was like the Hotel California. Your kid could go into the school they were zip coded for, but they could never leave, no matter whether that school met their needs or not. And so school choice means there's also an exit door. And if you're doing a great job, more people will enter through the entrance door, and if you're not, you'll go through the exit. That's what school choice really does, and empowers innovation and competition. So again, 25 years ago, we were at the bottom of the barrel, and with school choice and that competition, we're now at the top in our public schools. We have excellent public schools, in part because of school choice. But we also know that we need a concept like an ESA that is not just for vouchers, but for online learning, for an in-home tutor if your child's struggling in reading, because even brothers and sisters within a family learn differently. And so what this bill does through the ESA concept is allow you to customize each and every child's education so that it best fits their needs. And then finally, we do something very important with respect to children with unique abilities. We have some friends here I know from the Thrive Academy who are starting school uniquely for autistic children that will meet their needs. And we have had a wait list. So literally parents have had to say to their children, I'm sorry, but we can't make that happen for you this year. And so with this bill and the Governor's signature, we will never have a parent have to say that ever again. And finally, I think when we talk about educational freedom, it's also about our values. And we know, and we see the things on the news and what's happening, some of the craziness that happens in our K-12 schools, which we're combating this year, is understanding that we don't want your child to go to a school where their values are mocked and held up in derision. And so whether you're at a Catholic school like Columbus or one of our Orthodox Jewish schools here in South Florida, educational choice also means you have the ability to have your child go somewhere where they learn all the basics, but they also have their values and their faith respected. And that's also very, very important. I want to obviously again thank the Governor for his unyielding support on this issue. I want to thank Senator Pasadomo for her championing this issue over in the Senate and her leadership, and also and especially our bill sponsors, Kaylee Tuck in the House and Corey Simon in the Senate, who were absolute champions on this issue and just did a marvelous, marvelous job, and you'll hear from them in a moment. But I just want to say thank you, and God bless all of you, and it's a great day. You're going to see great, great things in education in Florida as a result of this bill. Thank you, guys.
Our Senate President, Kathleen Pasadomo.
Good morning. I love the name of your school, my background. Thank you, Governor DeSantis, Lieutenant Governor Jeanette Nunez. You guys rock. Without their support, we could not be here today. And Speaker Renner, this was his dream from the day one, and he has brought it to reality. It's a visionary bill. The goal of making school choice a reality for every child in every family across our great state has been a long time in coming. Universal choice means every school has a chance to compete for students, and parents can decide the best fit. That means also public schools can compete. The bill takes the first steps to level the playing field to make that happen. It reduces red tape that burdens our traditional public schools. These institutions, which have served our communities for generations, will also have a meaningful choice to compete alongside other school choice options. That's a little part of the bill that should not go unnoticed. And over the summer, the Department of Education is going to meet with superintendents from around the school, from around the state, to determine what regulations can be struck from our public school system. It's very important, it's critical, and it's a great step forward. I'm so pleased that parents around the state are going to have choice, attend a public school, a private school, a charter school, a religious school. What a wonderful opportunity for our future generation. And again, thank you, Governor DeSantis, because without his support and pushing and pushing and pushing, we wouldn't be here today. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and Commissioner of Education having to do battle with a lot of different narratives in the media, and I think he's got some more stuff to bat back, but in his spare time he also is working on the legislation as well. So Manny, come on up.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you for the ability to help you keep that story straight, by the way. I'm a little biased, but I think this is a great location to sign this bill, Governor. My son is actually an alum of this school, class of 2016. Thank you for your leadership, Governor. In 2019, when you came in as governor, I was fortunate to be in the Senate. You came in and specifically said we needed to eliminate the wait list because there should be no families waiting to be able to pick a school of their choice for their children. And that happened thanks to your leadership. We created the Family Empowerment Scholarship in 2019. And every year since that, during your term as governor, the program has been expanded. But I think we've reached the pinnacle here, right? We finally reached the place where every family in Florida can make a choice for their individual students, and all of them are different, even in the same household, for what matches their educational needs and the needs of the activities and everything else that goes along with this. So thank you, Governor, for leading on this. Thank you to Speaker Renner and President Pasadomo, the bill sponsors, Senator Simon, Representative Tuck, incredible work on this bill. And we've reached a point now where no matter what, every family will have a choice, regardless of zip code, regardless of background, in the state of Florida. And I want to make it clear, we didn't regain the lead, Governor. We never lost the lead. We were the reigning champs, and this just maintains that. As was mentioned before, the bill also provides a lot of flexibility for our public schools, streamlines the certification process to continue to make sure that our schools can compete. This creates an ecosystem where all of our schools across the board, whether they're charter, private, or district schools, can compete and provide the best education for our children. I'll say a couple of words in Spanish for the Spanish media. Le doy gracias al gobernador por el liderazgo. Al fin hemos llegado a un punto en el estado de la Florida donde todos los padres y todos los estudiantes pueden llegar a la escuela que mejor les sirva las necesidades académicas en el estado de la Florida. Gracias al gobernador DeSantis desde el 2019 está liderando en esto, y gracias al presidente, a la presidenta y el presidente de las dos cámaras y los miembros que están aquí por ayudar a llevar esta propuesta a convertirse en ley en hoy. Así que muchas gracias. Thank you, Governor, for continuing to make Florida the education state, as you are clearly the education governor.
Okay.
Well, thanks, Commissioner. And it's one of the great things about the programs that we've done is we've been able to watch students really thrive and then go on to do really great things in their lives. And when you have someone that can come back and say that this scholarship was very meaningful to them in their own lives, you know, that's really what it's all about. So we have Hira Varmu, who's here. She's a former scholarship student, and she's now a school choice advocate. So why don't you come up here and take the podium?
Good morning. I'm Hira Varma, and I'm a graduate of Tampa Catholic High School and Florida A&M University. I'm honored to be here with Governor DeSantis today and the legislative leadership to celebrate this bill becoming a law that will give families more options in their children's education. As one of 12 children in my family, I know that students learn in different ways. That's why 9 of us benefited from the tax credit scholarship, including myself. My parents immigrated from Jamaica and Liberia, and growing up we were very poor. My parents would stop at nothing to give us the best education possible. They also believe that schools' values should align with their children's and with theirs. The tax credit scholarship allowed them to send us to schools that gave us the best opportunity to learn and grow and succeed. So far, we have 4 college graduates, including one with a chemical engineer. He's my favorite one, don't tell anybody that. A mechanical engineer, one in medical school, and myself working for the American Federation for Children, seeking to give every family in the country access to the best K-12 education possible. But we don't stop there. We also have 4 in university currently. We have 3 in high school and 1 in middle school, so an army following. When people say school choice doesn't work, I simply show them my family. This is the power of giving a child an education that fits their needs. That's why this new law, expanding the tax credit scholarship and the family empowerment scholarship programs, is so important to Florida families. Turning them into education savings accounts gives parents more flexibility in spending their funds, which provides them more options to customize their child's education to meet their individual needs. I want to say thank you again to everyone that was a part of this monumental bill, because scholarships like these change the entire trajectory of my life and of so many families. This is the power of school choice, and I'm so happy to be a part of this monumental bill and be a part of one of the Florida stories. So thank you so much.
Okay, we have Ime Uriarty, a mother of a scholarship recipients right here at Christopher Columbus High School.
Good morning, my Columbus family and friends. I'm so honored to be here with Governor DeSantis and the legislature leadership to see this education choice bill become a law. Florida's choice scholarship programs have been a true lifesaver for my sons. I am a single mother, originally from Costa Rica, raising my 2 boys, and I moved back here 3 years ago, in large part because of the opportunities Columbus provides. Sebastian is 17 and attends Columbus on the Family Empowerment Scholarship for Education Opportunities. He's mostly a straight-A student who has a very active role in CCNN, which is Columbus' student-run broadcast news program. He has been a part of CCNN's winning pieces at national organizations like the Student Television Network Awards and the Suncoast Student Production Awards. His brother Alejandro just turned 15 yesterday. He's been diagnosed with ADD, which qualified him for the Unique Ability Scholarship. During the pandemic, Alejandro's school was not really working for him, but I knew that he could reach his full potential at Columbus High School. He just proved this to be true when he won an STN award for CCNN as a freshman at this year's edition in Long Beach, California, following the example of his brother. That would have never been possible without the scholarship. Both boys have thrived in the CCNN program, which has been a character-building experience for them, and whose director, Mr. Omar Delgado, has been more than a mentor and a teacher and has become like a father to them. For that, Mr. Delgado, wherever you are, because I can't see you right now, but I'm deeply grateful. And I would also like to say a special thank you to Mr. David Pugh, our principal, Mr. Alex Trujillo, Dean of Students, Ms. Cristina Insua, CCNN moderator, and Ms. Deborah Martinez, counselor. Indeed, Columbus is more than a school, it's a family. If it's true that it takes a village to raise a child, they are my village. They have helped us through many challenges and the emotional ups and downs. I know we would have not had these opportunities in a different school. Education choice scholarships have been a huge blessing to my family, and that's why I would like to thank Governor DeSantis for signing this bill passed by the legislature. I'm sorry, got stuck in the page. And basically, that'll give more options to families like mine to meet their children's education needs. Governor, you have this mother's eternal gratitude for allowing my boy's future to be as promising in a school like Columbus High School. So thank you.
Okay, now Mother of Scholarship recipients at Jewish Cooperative School, Rachel Hayden Saba.
Good morning. I am Rachel Hayden Saba, and I live in Fort Lauderdale. I am thrilled to be here today with Governor DeSantis and legislative leadership to see a new bill become law, expanding educational opportunities for families. That's because a state education choice scholarship program is making a huge difference in my daughter's lives. I have 4 beautiful daughters, 2 of whom became eligible for the Family Empowerment Scholarship for students with unique abilities this year. 8-year-old Elisheva has ADHD, which often means a child may require a sensory experience free of the pressures which are inherent in the classroom. As grateful as I am that we received UA funding to pay for my daughter's private school education this year, I am more grateful still to have the opportunity to homeschool her next year by using the funding to structure a curriculum that cultivates Elisheva's curiosity and love of learning by focusing on her strengths and making learning fun. Her 4-year-old sister, Ahava, has an expressive speech delay that qualified her for the scholarship. She was previously waitlisted because of her age. Thankfully, she became eligible for funding this year and has enabled us to get her the therapy she needs, relieving our family of financial hardships. This legislation will cause the unique abilities waitlist to vanish and allow nearly 10,000 special needs families to get the funding that they need. And families in the tax credit and education option scholarships will now have the ability to spend their program funds in ways that can better tailor their children's education to fit their individual needs. Thank you, Governor DeSantis, and thank you to the legislative leaders for making this dream come true.
Okay, now to our legislative sponsors. First in the Senate, Senator Corey Simon from Tallahassee.
Good morning, everybody. I filed a bunch of bills this year. I think I filed 25 bills this year, and none of them mean as much or as personal as this bill. And here's why it's so personal for me. Before school choice was a possibility, before it was legal, my mother made a choice. I grew up not far from here down in Pompano Beach, Florida. And in Pompano, where I grew up on the other side of Dixie Highway, there wasn't a lot of success stories that left that neighborhood. But my mother, who worked for Public Supermarket for over 35 years, knew that she didn't want her son to deal with the same obstacles that she saw right outside of our front door. And so she utilized her work address so that I can go to a better school. When I got into the Senate, when I was running for this position, that's the story that I told. That's the life that I've lived. That's the passion that I approached this bill with. Because I understood that I wouldn't be standing here today in this position without the sacrifice that my mother made. And I wanted to ensure that every family had that same opportunity to make the choice that was best for their child, regardless of the area code that they lived in. And so that's why this bill is so important. Thank you, Governor, for your leadership on this. Thank you, Senator Pasadomo, President Pasadomo. Thank you, Speaker Renner, for entrusting us in this great process to run this great bill for the families of our future. And so thank you. I look forward to the governor putting his signature on this bill so that families have the same opportunity that I had to get a great education.
Okay, now from our Florida's Heartland, Representative Kaylee Tuck.
And good morning, everyone. It's hard to say anything that hasn't already been said more eloquently by those before me, but I would be remiss if I didn't reflect on the monumental and historic day we are seeing right here. Florida has always put parents in the driver's seat, but today we keep parents in the driver's seat by making sure that every family and every student is empowered to get the education they deserve. It takes a village to do legislation as well, and I have to thank Speaker Renner, who had this vision so long ago, and we're seeing it to fruition, and President Pasadomo, Senator Simon, Governor DeSantis. It's been the privilege of a lifetime to be part of this monumental day, so I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, now it's time to make it official, so you guys kind of go ahead and grab. What are these, non-permanent for some of the younger kids? Is that why we got that?
Hello? Oh. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and welcome to South Florida again. You've heard the concern, especially from the Democrats over and over again, and public school advocates, how this saps money out of the public school system. Can you elaborate for us as to your argument against that?
Yeah, for two things. One is the amount of scholarship money is less than what would go per pupil for public anyways. Second, since I've been governor, we've raised the amount of funding to our public schools every year. I mean, the idea that they've been starved, that theoretically could happen. That's a choice that legislators and a governor would make, and I've pushed to have more funding for the school districts. And we're actually going to do, for public school teachers, the biggest teacher pay increase we've ever done. So we're going to have a categorical... We're going to have a categorical portion, either in the FEFP, they may make it in a different part. There's different legislative ways they do it, but basically $1 billion, it's got to go for teacher pay. It can't go for administration. It can't go for any of the other stuff, and that's really, really been significant. We're now in the top 10 in average minimum salary for the country in terms of teachers. We used to be in the bottom half. Now, because we've had that goal, I think this $1 billion categorical, can help to raise the pay overall. We have raised pay for everybody, but there's been a focus on the bottom half just because we want to recruit more people. So our commitment to that remains very, very strong. And if you look at the numbers that I cited at the top, yes, we've got a lot of private scholarships. Yes, we've got public charter schools. But the majority of school choice in Florida is actually within school districts. Miami-Dade's a great example of that. It's 70% of students in Miami-Dade County attend a school other than the school that they're zoned for. When I was growing up, just wherever you're zoned, that's where you went, and that was kind of it. You couldn't get that 70% number just on private scholarships. I mean, it's because there's an ability to make choice in the school system. Javier.
Oh, sorry. Governor, yes. On Friday, the U.S. Congress passed legislation, education reform legislation that kind of mimics Florida. First of all, what are your thoughts about that? And do you think that education reform should be left at the state level or at the federal, if there's room for that? And then lastly, is How do you feel about open carry not being presented to you?
So in terms of the education policy, I think it's a state and local issue. I think the federal government getting involved by and large has not been great. I haven't seen the bill. Obviously, I'm very supportive of parents' rights in education. I think the idea that somehow your own kids, when they go to the school system, that parents have no role in what's going on there is absurd. Of course, parents have a fundamental role in the education of their kids, in the upbringing of their kids, and that's just the way it's got to be. And so I think what we've done in Florida has been very, very positive. You note that they've been able to empower parents to be more engaged in the curriculum that's being used, more engaged in identifying things that are not consistent with state standards, and then just to have more of an impact overall. And here's the thing. There were some that said, parents, they don't know what they're doing, they shouldn't be involved. You hear these crazy arguments, but I can tell you, if you talk to most teachers, if a parent is engaged in the student's education, student's going to do much better. The harder students to reach and to do well with are the ones where they have no support at home or the parent isn't as involved. And so it's a win-win to have parents involved, because I think it makes teachers' lives better because the students are more engaged. Now, in terms of the constitutional carry, I mean, I'm for everything. I've said that from the beginning. And but if they send me something that is 90% or 80%, I mean, I'm going to take that win, and we can come back for more at some time in the future. Yes, sir. Well, the thing about our school choice programs, and look, it's not about different races and ethnicities, but the reality is the vast majority of recipients have been either African American or Hispanic. I mean, that's just the reality. And part of that is a reflection of Florida's demographics, but part of it, I think, is just a reflection that we really want to have no barriers for anyone, regardless of their circumstances. And when you're looking at folks who, Corey mentioned where he grew up and how it made a difference to be in that better school, we just want to make sure that folks have the ability to make the most of their God-given talents, and these scholarships help do that. But I would also say, and put in a plug for our charter schools. As many of you know, charter schools are public schools. They're not private scholarship schools, so they get tax money, but they're not controlled by the school districts and really are not influenced by the education unions and the school unions the way the school districts are. So they're able to be a little bit more nimble. They're able to experiment. And here's the thing. They either offer a product that parents want or they don't. And if they don't offer a product, it's kind of like, Yogi Berra when they asked about low attendance for baseball. He says, well, if people don't want to come to the ballpark, no one's going to stop them. And it's just like you can't have, if parents aren't buying what you're selling, then you're just not going to get the enrollment, and it's just not even going to work. So they have an incentive to do things that are going to be appealing. If you took just our charter school population, 360,000 plus, and it is disproportionately racial and ethnic minorities in that, it performs better than how many states. Some of you guys know it's like it would be one of the top performing states in America if just our charter population was rated as a separate state. And so that's when you know that these things have been positive. And here's just what I would say as governor. I don't care what part of the state you're from. I don't care your family circumstances. I don't care your race, ethnicity. You can succeed in Florida. You can succeed in America. And our goal is to make sure that you have the tools you need to be able to do that. But don't let anyone tell you you can't do it. We don't want that in our classrooms to try to say someone can't succeed. No, everybody can succeed. And I think what we've done has been living proof of that. And then finally, just some of the phony narratives that you hear. You know you're on the right track when they can't argue against you on the substance. It's not that hard to just pick out, we put out one sheets about the bills I sign. You can pick out legislation and just read what it is. And if that's something that's really problematic, you would point to that legislation and you would say, look at this, this is bad. But they don't do that. They don't do what actually is being done. They try to concoct phony narratives. So you actually had somebody in Congress claim that Duval County Schools does not allow books about Rosa Parks. And he pointed to a book and he said, I searched for that. They did not have this book. And so the school system actually responded on social media and said, well, we have 14 other books about Rosa Parks. We just didn't have that one because you have to make choices about what you do. But they were trying to do a narrative that somehow that would not be appropriate in Florida schools, which is absurd. So the more they do things that are just ridiculous, the more that they try to do these phony narratives, that should give you comfort to know that we're getting the substance right. Because if we were getting the substance wrong, they would be attacking the actual substance of the bills, and they're not doing that, and they're not able to get that done.
Governor? Governor over here? Good morning. I just have a point of clarification. Can students use the vouchers at any private schools in Florida, or are there restrictions? And then secondly, if a student who does attend a private school that doesn't accept vouchers, can they use that money for other related expenses?
I mean, I think it's just any school that meets the basic standards, right? It's open to them, yeah. So there's not going to be, if someone just decided to start a school tomorrow and had 5 students, they may have to qualify. But any of these schools, they're going to be able to do it, I believe, correct? Yep. All right, everybody. God bless everybody. Thank you. We'll see you soon.